the D-backs are heading to the World Series, it's time for you to become an Arizona baseball expert. We've got it all for you right now on MOMCAST. For the first time in 22 years, your Arizona Diamondbacks have made it to the World Series. Can you believe it? We've got the schedule of games that you cannot miss. We've also got D-backs 101 because everyone is going to be asking you about this team that surprised the globe by making it to the World Series. So we need to be experts. We've got 12 News sports anchor Cameron Cox with a rundown on the players that we need to know, along with some stats that will set you apart at your next watch party. Also, the Diamondbacks in-game host for the last 17 seasons. You know her, you adore her, Vanessa Ramirez. She's going to be joining us too right here on MOMCAST. These two have spent a decade and more with this team, rubbing shoulders with the best of the best. They have everything we need to know as we head to the World Series. But first, have you heard about the massive lawsuits states across the country are spearheading against Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Facebook? It's all because our kids are becoming addicted to social media. I've got all the details in your top stories, so let's go. And we've talked about this before on MOMCAST, but even more states are joining in because the problem is getting worse. 41 states and counting suing Meta for misleading the public about safety of our children on their platforms. These states claim that Instagram and Facebook are made to be addictive to kids and teens, and that they build tools within their apps like algorithms, filters, that feed into that addiction to keep our kids on their platforms longer, making even more money off of them, even though they know it's not good for their mental health. Instagram and Facebook both claim they have made changes to limit the amount of time that younger users spend on their apps, like those time limit boxes that pop up every now and again, which these kids can easily get out of and keep scrolling. But states in the lawsuit, they want financial penalties and to force these companies to stop using certain features that harm younger users. I also have another new report out for you. This one's from Harvard that you need to be aware of. 18 to 25-year-olds are twice as likely to suffer from anxiety and depression than 14 to 17-year-olds. It's a stat that even caught researchers off guard because there has been so much focus on the younger generation, but according to this new report, young adults are struggling too. After talking to more than 700 young adults, researchers found that more than half are worried about finances and the pressure to achieve, which negatively affects their mental health. 58% surveyed said they lacked meaning or purpose in their lives. So why is this group, these 18 to 25-year-olds, so vulnerable? Experts say there's a high rate of loneliness in this age bracket and that the internet has turbocharged these feelings of comparison and the pressure to keep up. Should we perk up here? I know you're ready. It's Halloween after all, right? Not like this candy's gonna help us at all. This adds to depression and all that, but we gotta have some fun. What is your favorite candy and is it on this list? Halloween candy sales, you're not gonna believe this, expected to reach $3.6 billion this year. CandyStore.com released data based on its bulk candy sales to determine the favorite sweets in each state and nationwide. Turns out Reese's Peanut Butter Cups is the most popular candy across the country. M&M's and Hot Tamales took spots 2 and 3. Candy corn made a surprising comeback in the top 10. I want to recount on that one. As for Arizona, the candy of choice here, Hershey Kisses. Time now to talk D-backs. You ready? Okay, this is the schedule that you need to know as we head into the World Series. Game 1 and 2 in Dallas, Friday and Saturday. We move it to the desert on Monday for games 3, 4, and 5. Yes, we have a game on Halloween in Arizona, just a heads up there. Then we end it with games 6 and 7 in Dallas. And it's been a long time, 22 years since we have been in a World Series. Fans have a reason to be pinching themselves right now. Is this really happening? And you might be thinking, I don't want to get my hopes up here. But our sports anchor, Cameron Cox, says, stop it. Stop it right now. He told me that today. Get excited because the D-backs can win this. Just told me that they're going to write a movie about this.
Yeah, Emma, it's incredible. Like, this run is truly magical. We've been talking all postseason long, like team of destiny. I believe it now. What we've watched is one of the best things in baseball over the last decade. And it's been so impressive to watch. All season long, we thought they're a year ahead. Like it just seemed like that was the timeline of this team with the young guys coming up in the future. Like they cut some veterans. And so it was like, all right, so next year they're really going to start rolling, right? So even when they found success, we're like, this is great. They're a year early. They're okay. We're fine. But then they started this truly magical run at the end of August. They have been playing playoff games since the end of August, win or go home games. And they have knocked off some of the top teams in the National League, teams that have been around a very long time, that have bullied them for a very, very long time. For them to do what they've been able to do is truly incredible, knocking off the Dodgers, the Phillies, and now find themselves 4 wins away from a World Series title. Like this is no more like the little team that could, the underdogs, anything like that. They are now the favorites in the World Series. In my eyes, they are right there with it. And for them to move on, be the top team in the National League is just truly incredible.
I think it seems unbelievable because it's been 22 years, 22 years that D-backs fans have been waiting patiently for something like this to happen. It almost feels a little bit like we're a little nervous to celebrate this early because it almost just seems unreal. You don't want to get your hopes up too high.
Yeah, Emma, that's the crazy thing. It's like none of this has kind of felt real. But you know what it really hit me, Emma, was last night watching them celebrate. Like that's when you realize that this team that's been underdogs the entire time, like grew up. Like they punched Big Brother in the mouth in the LA Dodgers, and then they knocked off the head of the table in the National League, the defending NL champs, and now find themselves in the World Series. Like this is no longer the group that like people could talk about in a Cinderella aspect. Sure, it's a good story. And we joked that they're going to write a movie about this. And what comes to mind is the "Do you believe in miracles?" from the Miracle on Ice, right? Like all those things come to mind. This is the team that's for real. They're the real deal. And they have players that have grown up. The young guys are not young anymore. Like these are guys that were brought in to help contribute to the team. They got them in the World Series. A lot of old veterans on this team too as well that are trying to put a stamp on the end of their careers. And it's been long roads for a lot of them. Like this is their moment. And middle of the road guys that have been really good players in baseball. Now everybody gets to see how good they are. Torey Lovullo, who was, when he got here, was manager of the year his first year in 2017, then missed the playoffs for nearly 6 straight years. And a lot of organizations would not only move on from your coach, but from your GM. But there was something that kept, Ken Kendrick and Derek Hall, there was something about Mike Hazen and what Torey Lovullo, what they had been building all these years where they just kept figuring out ways to invest in family. That's what Ken Kendrick told me after they clinched the playoff spot. He goes, you don't give up on family through the tough times. You figure out ways to stick with them and to build around it. And that's what Torey Lovullo and Mike Hazen has done. Torey talks about people a lot in this run and what people have inspired him to do and what caring for people can do for people. And here you find just a group of people that truly care about one another and have invested in one another. And it's just paid off to the absolute fullest. Good things happen to good people. Diamondbacks are a good baseball team, and they're going to keep showing it. They're going to keep showing it. They match up incredibly well against the Rangers, Emma.
Okay, so if I am a fan, but I need a little bit of a lesson, D-backs 101, who are the players that I need to know heading into the World Series so that when I'm at work or when I'm, at carpool with the other moms, that I look like I'm in the know? What do I need to know, Cam?
Well, first of all, it's Corbin Carroll. It's the young guy. Future rookie of the year, right? He just kind of willed them to that Game 7 win in Philly. The biggest stars shine on the biggest moments. And the future rookie of the year delivered massively for the D-backs, getting running on the bases, hitting too as well. Remember, the D-backs gave him a $100 million contract at the beginning of the season. He had very little playing time, Emma, and they gave him $100 million. Like, we knew he was going to be good, but it was like, hold up, wait a minute. He's barely played any games, and you gave him all this money. Like, we got it, but it was one of those things. It was like, okay, maybe, all right, we'll see. It has paid off tremendously for them. And he's performed well. Ace Zach Gallen, he's going to start Friday in Texas. We'll start with those two guys. And then, of course, I hear the kids love Baxter, the mascot. Okay. Our mascot's name is Baxter. He's a Bobcat, all right? Make sure you know that. Those are 3 things. We'll start there, okay. and we'll go from there, all right? I know a lot of kids.
Tell me a little bit about our closer, Seawald, because that's when everyone usually gets on their feet, is when he comes out and when he closes the game. How has he been doing? How do you expect him to do in this World Series run?
Yeah, Emma, it's really been the entire bullpen that's been phenomenal, and
Yeah.
it's been Troy Lovullo pushing all the right buttons when it's time to bring in those guys, because a lot of that is matchup driven, and so you're bringing in certain guys to face certain hitters, and it's almost like a massive game of chess. Like which manager can out chess the other, play checkers. I don't know, however you want to phrase it, but it's like whichever manager can just outsmart that manager in that situation. The best thing about Paul Sewall is he came over midseason from a trade with the Mariners, struggled a little bit early on, but man, he has found a groove, and he is the best reliever in baseball right now. The Phillies couldn't touch him whatsoever. And talking with a lot of the D-backs guys, that's because he goes right at him. He's not scared of nobody. And so when he's up there on that mound, like it is a presence for him to be there. And if he's coming into the game, I'll say this, it is likely over. Just know that. If Paul Sewall is coming into the game and the D-backs have a lead in the ninth, it is likely over. Get the margarita machine going and maybe call into work the next day.
You've been covering this team for a decade now? Have we been there that long?
Yeah.
What's different?
Crazy.
I know everyone's asking you this question, Cam, but what's different about this team? I mean, you've been patient. D-backs fans have been patient. What is it about this team that you're like, we might win this World Series?
Emma, I'm trying not to say they're going to win the World Series.
I know. You're getting my hopes up.
I know. I'm trying not to say that because anything could happen. Texas is playing really well. They just knocked off the defending World Series champs. They won every game on the road. And to do that in Houston is incredibly impressive. So let's not slight the Rangers whatsoever. I think the D-backs match up incredibly well with them. Better than Philly, better than they did against the Dodgers. Across the board, from hitting, pitching, base running, all the above. How the manager's handling the game right now, to me, in my eyes, the D-backs are the favorite in this series. What is different? It's the magic. It's the people. It's all of that. They have figured, that's what makes sports so great. They have figured out a way, Emma, to make this work and to just keep getting it better and better and better. And it sounds so cliche, but Torey Lovullo he's talked about this a few times in the postseason, but he did specifically before Game 7. He was asked, a lot of the national media, the narrative is they don't belong. Right? They won 84 games. They were the last team in the National League. Like, come on, do you really belong at this point? Like, and Torey joked, like, listen, we hear all that. We're keeping receipts, just so you know. We're keeping receipts. And he kind of looked at me too, by the way, because I said in August that the season was over. I've never been more happy to be proven wrong, but it just goes to show you anything can happen in the postseason. The best teams get in the postseason. D-backs deserve that. Like, they were significantly better than they were the past couple of years. Remember, they lost 100 and something games 2 years ago. Best teams got in. And then it's a whole new season. And it's all about whoever gets hot and plays their best baseball at the right time. The D-backs are doing that. And it is just so impressive to see, because it is a mixture of ages all over the place. And they have figured out a way to make it work. Torey Lovullo talks about people. The difference is the people in this organization getting it done. And that's what's so cool. And you see imprints like all over, decades of imprints on this team. They got a little bit of grit like that 01 team have. You know what I mean? They got a little bit of veteran experience, got journeymen in baseball, young guys in baseball, really smart baseball guys on the bench, coaches too as well, that have seen it all, done it all. It's the people, Emma, and that's what's so impressive about this run. And they are 4 wins away from a world title. Crazy.
Okay, so if I'm watching the World Series this next week, what should I be looking out for? Are there certain players I should be watching when they come up to bat? Okay, tune in for this one. Give me like a little so that I look like I'm in the know.
Corbin Carroll, obviously the all-star. Christian Walker is the first baseman, right? Lourdes Gurriel Jr., I hear everybody likes the purple hair. I will say this, I wouldn't go to your barber and recommend purple hair. Maybe just for the next week and a half. Hopefully they can change it back afterwards or something like that. How about the NLCS MVP, Ketel Marte, the hottest hitter in baseball, Emma? He's another great story too as well. Like, the D-backs gave him a big contract. I think it was like 4 years ago. He was the first piece of this kind of reshaping team. I remember Mike Hazen, when they signed him to this contract, it was like, we are going to start investing in our guys. No longer would they let Paul Goldschmidt go. Remember, they traded him away. The whole city was depressed for a very, very long time. And I was mad at Mike Hazen, the general manager, for a very, very long time. And it took me a while to stop bringing that up to him. But Ketel Marte was that first piece where it was like, we are going to stop letting our guys get out. You know what I mean? Leave. We want to keep him here. So it was only fitting last night for Ketel Marte to win the MVP award of the NLCS and be the hottest hitter right now in the postseason.
For people who are huge fans who maybe haven't been following the D-backs as closely the last couple of years, what do you hope they are saying at their World Series parties, at, you know, their friends' houses? What do you want them to say about the D-backs?
Well, you know what, Emma, it's interesting you ask that question, because Torey Lovullo's mentioned this a few times in the postseason. Like, we want to earn our fans' trust back. And he keeps saying that. It's like, and my reaction inside is like, hey, man, you've done enough. Like, they should be better. You know, you just keep winning. You've willed this team to a World Series, to be in the World Series. Like, you've done it. You've done it. But I get it. It's been a while since this team has had success. There's been a lot of ups and downs, and I'll say more downs since that 0-1 World Series title. You thought the D-backs right after that World Series were in position to win another one, right? And then all of a sudden, it didn't work out. Gonzo leaves, Randy leaves, and it's just like, what's happening? Bob Brenly leaves. Then you weren't sure what happened in the late 2000s. You thought you had some hope in the early 2010s when Goldie got there, and then all of a sudden it didn't happen right away. Then all of a sudden Torey gets here, and, you know, they had that amazing wild card game, go to the playoffs his first year. You were like, finally. And then all of a sudden it went missing for 6 years. And so it was just a lot of roller coaster ride. You were never really sure what Diamondback team you're going to get. What, to me, in my eyes, what this is established is now maybe an expectation, maybe a vibe, maybe a standard. Torey Lovullo always talks about the standard, representing Arizona, playing for Arizona. If there was ever a guy and a team to rally around, and those are like our guys, I mean, you know, we're very big community people. And Torey always says representing Arizona, our community, our fans, more so than most, I think, managers out there. So if there was ever a team that represents us and a lot of different stories that we can all vibe with and that we can all relate to, it is this team. And I can tell you this team is going to be good for years to come. Get ready for a different, and I'm going to say golden age of Diamondback baseball.
And you know who else is excited right now? In-game host for the last 17 seasons, our very own Vanessa Ramirez. You know her. She's here at 12 News with us, and she's also with the D-backs. She was actually watching them win all the way over in the Dominican Republic. The poor girl's on vacation, but she did make some time for us right here on MOMCAST, because she has a message for all of the fans who are going to be making their way out to Chase Field.
Although I knew we were going to do it, like, something told me this was it this year. And every time I was talking to other people during the postseason, people are like, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, they're definitely going to make it spicy, but we are making it. And they definitely made it spicy. I mean, they kept us on our toes. We were so excited about the whole thing, and they did it. And yeah, I started crying because I've been with the team for 17 years, waiting for this moment, and it finally happened.
Because I know we shouldn't like say this yet, but I know that you're getting to the end where you're like, man, maybe I need to, you know, finally be done doing the D-backs in-game host, just because you're busy with so many other things. But
Right.
to have this and to be part of it during the World Series, I mean, how incredible.
So incredible. And you're right. I've thought about it a few times, like, how long do I keep going? You know, I have so many things on my plate. I also have to, you know, live my life, my personal life.
Right.
So, but I'm so glad that I'm still here this year.
Yes.
Because could you imagine if I decided to make a change this season and then this happened? I would never forgive myself.
You are in charge of the vibe that happens inside of Chase Field.
Our fans are so amazing. I've said this a million times during the postseason. They have brought the energy full throttle. I mean, when it's time to stand up, everybody's on their feet. We have a sold out crowd. They're standing up in the very, very high 300 section. You know, their heads are hitting the ceiling. They're waving their towels. So it's not that hard to get our crowd going. I believe our fans love our team. They believe in our team. They're here for all of this, you know, so it just makes our job that much easier. when we walk into the ballpark at Chase Field and say, okay, we got to pump the crowd, we got to get everybody going. I mean, as soon as we start talking, everybody's excited and they're screaming. So it's not going to be that challenging for the World Series, but it's just amazing to be here or to be there on the field and experience this firsthand.
What is that like for you to look out at that stadium and it's a sold out crowd?
Well, you know, it brings me back to my very first time hosting with the D-backs. We were doing a hit from the pool, a promotion from the pool. And I remember turning around and looking up at the sold out crowd. And I said to myself, I can't believe this is my job. I can't believe I'm talking to over 47,000 fans, right, at Chase Field, my hometown, where I grew up. And a quick backstory, many years before I started hosting with the Arizona Diamondbacks, I went to a game and I was sitting in the 300 level. And there was another gal doing my job at the time. And I looked down and I said, I could do that job. And fast forward, I think it was like 2-3 years, I'm actually doing the job. So it just brings me back to that moment, my very first game hosting, and to know that I'm going to do the same exact thing. But 17 years later in the World Series, I mean, come on, this is just like, it's amazing, unbelievable. Like, let me pinch myself a few times to make sure that this is real, you know?
What do you need from the fans going into the World Series? Because again, you're in charge of how the fans react and whether it's good, whether it's bad. What do you want fans in Arizona to know?
I just want them to know that they need to bring it to the next level. Like, obviously, we have already brought our A game, right, during this postseason, but the World Series is the next step. I mean, it's the biggest step ever we can take, right? So I just need the fans to really step it up just a little bit more. Bring that fire that's inside our bellies, right? And bring it out just a little bit more. Let's show the team that we support them no matter what. I mean, they made it this far. It's a huge deal. So no matter the outcome, we want to show the team that we love them, that we support them, that we believed in them, right? And continue to believe in them. So we just need to bring that energy just a little bit more, because let me tell you, Emma, I'm telling you, during the other games that I've hosted, it was unreal. Like, the energy, the noise in the ballpark. Like, I just was like, whoa, trying to experience it all, you know? So it's gonna even take it to the next level. So I don't even know how can we even beat that, you know? But I'm asking the fans, yes, to just step it up just a little bit more. And we just got to keep it going for these guys and show how much that we support them and we love them and we believe in them.
You can bet we're going to have each and every game covered from Dallas to Phoenix. This is the place you want to be, 12 News. Thank you so much for watching MOMCAST. We're going to see you next week when we are World Series champions. Let's go, D-backs.